and welcome to Unlearning Out Loud, a podcast for a world where we're comfortable asking ourselves with regularity.
What if there's more or less to know?
Have you caught yourself confidently explaining something to somebody and then found yourself wondering, am I right about this?
Or if you do, we rarely end up going back to find out.
Actually, if you're something we call a human, you probably don't have this happen very often.
Oh, you mean like thinking that duck and cover would actually save you from a nuclear blast?
Exactly. Or that swallowing gum means it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Or that quicksand is going to be a way bigger problem into adulthood.
Well, first of all, I always imagined that I was going to drown in quicksand with gum in my stomach. But again, if you're human, this is not an indictment. It's just part of the human condition. And it helps explain so much about the world we live in today. It's why people rarely change their opinions, even when they're confronted with new information. Quicksand, for example, major anxiety in my childhood, 0 real world encounters. Go figure.
And it explains why so many of us still think that the gum stays in your stomach for 7 years and you're going to grow a gum tree if you swallow it. And that diving headfirst into a curb might save your life in a nuclear attack. And you get sick because of cold temperatures.
I still practice the jumping off my bicycle into a nuclear curb. That curb would become nuclear. The reality is that much of what we know or have learned over time has become a bit of an amalgamation of bits of truth or groupthink, misinformation, or things that we want to be true. That knowledge base is something that we normally feel extremely confident about. And we'll do anything to protect our opinions, as they tend to become an actual reflection of who we are, almost like our brand, so to speak, rather than things that may or may not be wholly or partially accurate.
Division, anyone? Welcome to Unlearning Out Loud, the podcast where we admit that half the stuff we know might just need a little bit of unlearning.
I'm Mike Lee.
And I'm Melissa Sadorf, and this is Unlearning Out Loud, a podcast for humans.
Well, you should be careful qualifying it like that, Melissa. We'll lose the important platypus demographic.
Ooh, my bad. And although I hear it's only the 18 to 35-year-old platypuses that are into podcasts anyway, right?
Platypus, note to self, look that up.
Well, while you're doing that, why don't we introduce ourselves, and maybe that'll hook every demographic, even the platted whatever it is.
Well, I'm Mike Lee, and I am clearly the resident idiot of this podcast, and the one who is concerned with the correct pluralizations of words. I am a lifelong educator. I had spent my entire career working with kids, working in education systems. I started out as a paraprofessional working with one-on-one students with special needs and just having wonderful experience learning from great teachers. Became a teacher myself, and I, for some strange reason, got into administration, and that's when I began to drink both coffee and alcohol. But loved every minute of it. Shout out to all the amazing teachers and parents that I had while I was in those roles. Because without you, I would have been fired once per day. And so I don't know about you, Melissa, but people would always come up to me in the hallways and say, "Hey, how's it going, Dr. Lee?" And I'd say, "Well, do you see Anderson Cooper out in the parking lot with a tight black t-shirt and a satellite truck broadcasting live from the parking lot?" And they'd say, "No," but I go, "Well, then today's a good day." And I think I meant that. Anyway, spent time at central office leadership. I've done a whole lot of just fun, interesting things, usually related to education. But personally, growing up here in Arizona, have just had the good fortune of soaking in lots of skin cancer inducing rays over my life. We won't do too much Arizona centric because we're hoping to have our audience spill over into the New Mexico, California platypus demographic at some point. First stop, New Mexico, next stop, the world. And so I just have lived here pretty much my whole life, except for stints in Ohio. And shout out to my second home, and go Buckeyes, OH. And just have loved every minute. I love to travel. I love to read. I love movies. And I love coming up with podcasts that no one asked for. So, and having great friends like you that I can do those with. So, Melissa, I'll let you explain a little bit about yourself, and then you can even throw in how you had the misfortune to ever meet me.
Well, after that sounds like an ad on what Tinkle's page. I like walking on the beach. I like sunsets.
Let's just put it this way: thank God I'm not posting ads in singles things, because they would go unanswered. I hooked mine early, over 30, almost 35 years ago, and then luckily for me, she's somebody who honors a commitment. So once she realized what she'd gotten into, nothing she can do about it. She's not going anywhere. So
God bless Sue-Ann. Well, I'm Melissa Sadorf. I'm a rural advocate, an ethics umpire, and your co-host in the sport of rethinking. And I'll be the pithy one. Mike is the one that has the backstory. I'll be the one that gets us back to the home stretch. And excited.
Where you scrape the lemon outside of the lemon skin off?
It is.
Lemon shallow.
Yes.
You pithy
but
it.
Pithy is we're just going to be concise and say what we mean without over-explaining it.
So in other words,
overthinking it, over-explaining it.
Over-talking.
Oh, I didn't say that.
I did.
But no, Mike and I have been on this journey probably for over a decade now. We were in our doc program together and had lots of great conversations about things that we thought we knew. And it just keeps getting better because we've had more learning under our belts since we had a chance to meet in college. And looking forward to having some conversations around things that we need to unlearn together.
So, I was thinking about this right before we went on, Melissa, and one of the things that people always find interesting is when you tell someone about someone you look up to or you find interesting, or, if I, meet someone, it tells you a lot about the person. So, who's of people that are alive today, let's keep it in that ballpark, who do you look up to? Who blows you away, so to speak?
Well, it's always been my grandkids. I have 3 of them with one on the way because they are ruthless fact checkers with sticky fingers. And I also really like Temple Grandin because clarity beats volume every single day. What about you, Mike?
Grandin. Oh, well, Temple Grandin, by the way, if you haven't seen, I know you have, but for our audience, if you have not seen the HBO story about Temple Grandin, starring Claire Danes, if I remember correctly, an incredibly well done movie. Jack White, the musician, and I, we're best friends. We're like this. He doesn't know it, but I will not be ignored, Jack. There's a little reference for you. Watch out for boiling bunnies. And Melissa, maybe you could, what is a restraining order? I don't.
Oh no!
I love creativity, and so I am just drawn to people that are just super creative or are calm in a storm. And I know I whittled it down to people who are alive, but people like Winston Churchill are fascinating to me. And part of it is because, and some of it lends itself to our show, this idea that that there's this legendary person, but it's also about time and place and the intersection between who it was and when it was, right? So that there's always more to the story than kind of the simple narrative that we like to tell ourselves. And, for example, we don't spend much time talking about the initial forays into leadership that Winston suffered, so to speak, and what he learned from those moments, and also just being in the right place at the right time. So those are some people, but I'm sure over time we'll be name dropping other famous people that we're best friends with, right?
I'm sure. So Mike, let's think about this. Why would 2 lifelong educators, which we both are, want to talk about things that we should unlearn? Well, first, I think it's important to point out that we think it's fun to explore all the weird, wonderful, and occasionally embarrassing things that humans believe and how to rethink them without losing our sense of humor. Because here's the truth. Learning something new can be challenging, but unlearning something can be even harder.
Yeah. And when we embrace true curiosity, and we talk a lot about curiosity, but when we really embrace it, even if it means deconstructing parts of what has become kind of the foundation of our thinking, we become better at self-checking and learn that protecting our established beliefs and opinions is a bit of a dull and almost predictable exercise. But I like to talk about our lack of commitment to true curiosity. But hey, what did we all grow up with? One of my favorite storybooks of all time, Curious George. I love those books, love those stories. But what did we all learn from, if you really stop to think about it, what we learned from those wonderful books that are some of my favorites of all time is that put on a yellow hat and a yellow outfit and go steal yourself a monkey. That's A-OK, number one, which still that was acceptable. And second, also that curiosity was the misbehavior that George got up to, right? Now, granted, he took some high risks, so maybe he should have been called like too high of a risk taker, George, because those were really what we needed to talk about. But curiosity, not a bad thing, is it?
Well, when we first started talking about doing this podcast, some friends asked, wait, why call it Unlearning Out Loud? Don't you two specialize in learning?
Yeah, and that's kind of the point. We've built this culture that celebrates adding more facts, more skills, more opinions, but we really rarely stop to ask, what should we actually subtract? What might be just a little bit off or wildly off? Because sometimes what we've learned consciously or unconsciously might just need to be revisited.
Kind of like cleaning out your mental junk drawer and seeing if that stapler actually works.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's not easy because a lot of the things that we know, they feel really comfortable. They're stories we've told ourselves for years about how people work, how success works, how love works, how society works. But sometimes those stories, they really can stop to serve us and they lead to division or worse yet, hostility towards other people or groups.
Yeah. So we're really here to put those stories under the microscope. And in the process, we'll laugh a little. We're going to learn a little and maybe go, maybe I was wrong about that.
So what would you expect if you're tuning into our show? I think it's going to be a lot of fun. First of all, let's start there. There's going to be some serious stuff. There's going to be some fun stuff. But what is it that we're going to be unlearning? Well, let's just say it's a mix. It's kind of like a variety show, like Sonny and Cher. Or
I got you, babe.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't even know that anybody does variety shows anymore, but the good old-fashioned variety show like Hee Haw or Sonny and Cher. Welcome, 1972.
Lord, yeehaw. Well, some episodes might be fun, like our upcoming one. What you learned in the movies might just kill you. Because seriously, Hollywood has been lying to us for decades.
Don't get me started on that one, although we will get started on that one. But we'll dive into really interesting stuff like psychology, culture, science, relationships, and everyday life, but always with a playful tone and a sense that, hey, we're all learning and we're all unlearning together.
So, Mike, here's a question that people might be wondering. Why unlearning? Why not just call it a podcast about being wrong?
Well, first of all, it's not just about being wrong or right. It's about being willing to kind of update our mental software and begin to ask ourselves really tough questions about maybe I don't know everything I need to know at this point. Maybe some of what I need to know isn't even available to know, right? Maybe this is an ongoing investigation. So, if learning is downloading new information, then unlearning is deleting some glitchy old code that might be helping the program to crash on occasion.
Yeah. So basically, we're like tech support for your brain.
Yeah, I think we'll respond a little faster typically than tech support. But, and also, first of all, being a guy, I can tell you what I do for tech support. We turn it off and we turn it back on again. And but instead of turning the machine off and on, we're going to turn our assumptions off. And we're going to turn our curiosity on.
I like that. Curiosity is kind of our brand. We're not experts in everything, but we are, through virtue of being very good educators, we are expert question askers.
I like that. So what we want listeners to feel is that they're kind of sitting at the table with us, part of the conversation, part of the laughter, part of the, wait, what? Moment when something suddenly maybe clicks.
So why don't we talk a little bit about how we'll do it, how a typical episode works. Can you walk us through that?
I would love to. Thanks for asking. Like that. Very professional podcasty. I've got And
You
by the way,
got
did I
it.
explain to you? I've got this,
Oh.
I don't know. I watch other podcasts and I got to tell you, I might have microphone envy because based on what I've seen, I'm supposed to have a giant black arm sticking out from a wall in my face, usually about four. Oh, yeah, that's right. You do too. So I don't know. I just, it's effective, I think.
It just needs to work. It's all good.
We'll see what the audience says. They're going to say, well, you sound a little tinny. And I'm going to say, well, that's actually what I sound like. That's microphone's doing its job. So most of our episodes will start with something people think they know, like a common belief, a misunderstood fact, myth, bias. Then we'll look at what research might actually say, what the growing body of information might be saying. We'll share some funny stories. And we'll probably admit some of our own misconceptions along the way, because Lord knows I have them.
And I'm sure I do too. And here's something that we will always ensure is happening. We'll end with something practical, a question, a challenge, or just a thought that you can take into your week.
Right. Because as we've said a lot, the awareness isn't the goal. Curiosity is. We don't want to teach people what to think. We want to make them wonder all over again.
So if you're the kind of person who says, I hope Mike and Melissa start a new podcast, then this podcast is for you.
Yeah, I know I was one of those people.
I was too.
I walked around saying that all the time. But if you've ever been in an argument and you've realized halfway through that argument, you're not even sure why you believe what you're defending, this podcast is definitely for you. Or of course, as I had mentioned earlier, if you're not a platypus.
Well,
I
we're
could
going
love
to,
one that's a platypus.
I don't know. We're going to have to get the demographic, I guess.
It's all Mr. Rogers' fault. I became obsessed with platypus when I was a kid because he had a platypus in the puppet land. Remember that?
He was so
and
scary. That was the scary. Honestly, all of those puppets that lived in, what was it, Friday Neverland? Those were some scary puppets. Oh my
God. The platypus really looked like
King Friday. Seriously,
I got to be honest with you. The platypus fella. If you don't know what I'm talking about, bring it up on the Google. Look up a picture of the platypus from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and tell me it didn't look like somebody had taken one of the Muppets, accidentally lit it on fire, and then didn't want to waste it and throw it out, and so they gave it to Fred next door in the next studio, and he said, "Well, it looks like a platypus." I once heard a joke said the platypus is an example that God has a true sense of humor. So,
and didn't it only it didn't even talk? It went right. It didn't have words.
I thought it did talk, but
right, I might have to do some unlearning on Mr. Rogers' make-believe neighborhood thing.
Maybe we'll do an episode on what you learned and if there's anything we need to revisit from old Fred that needs to unlearn.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one. Yeah, good. So we're going to laugh, we're going to learn, and we'll probably debunk some things that we've all been quietly embarrassed to admit that we believe, like the whole thing
like
about
the idea that cracking your knuckles causes arthritis, or that trolls hate red, or that if you sneeze with your eyes open, they'll pop out.
Wait a minute, they don't?
Now, those are simple ones. We're going to do more interesting ones than that, but, you can always Google some of these things. Just, to, in between now and our first real episode, this is really episode 0. Yeah, it's not really episode 1, or like the recent Godzilla movie that I loved. And you're going to hear a lot about movies from me during this podcast. You're going to hear a lot about those movies, but there was Godzilla -1. This is kind of like episode -1. And I should mention that our podcast episodes will not just be the unlearning thing, right? We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in pop culture, what's some fun stuff happening. There'll be some other just kind of fun, interesting things that we'll talk about to kind of, what is it? It's like if you love peanuts and then somebody took peanuts and wrapped them in a beautiful color-coded candy shell. The peanut will be, or if you love the candy shell and you just suffered through the peanut because it was the only way to. Did you ever try to eat the candy shell off of the M&M peanut because you didn't like peanut?
I was good at it. I could also deconstruct a Snickers bar in German class in high school.
Okay, well, that's interesting to know. I was an expert and I liked both the fig and the Newton. I don't know if the Newton's actually a part of the thing, but a fig Newton, I would always just make it a challenge to see if I could eat
all the cookie off?
Eat the cookie off, leaving only the fig part. And I knew that I had Newton in my belly and fig in my hand. And these are just the little things that kept you busy when you were a child or a 21-year-old. So if these things sound interesting to you, you, my friend or friends, are in the right place.
So what are we really going to be unlearning here?
Well, so maybe that being wrong isn't something to fear, it's something to enjoy, because every time we unlearn or reformulate our thinking, we make space for growth.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that. We're not breaking things down to be cynical. We're really unlearning so that we can grow.
Exactly. I'm not saying there won't be a few moments of pure, like the two Muppets in the balcony and on the Muppet Show, cynicism, because, hey, do what you're good at. But it won't be about what we need to unlearn. But we'll do it with humor. We'll do it with humility. And of course, a good dose of curiosity.
So if you're ready to question your assumptions and laugh at your old beliefs and explore what it means to unlearn out loud, hit that subscribe button.
Join us for this journey through the strange, the hilarious, eye-opening, not eye-popping world of things we were sure we knew until we didn't.
Because sometimes the smartest thing you could say is,
wait,
what if there's more
or less
to know?